What's up, Joe? What's up, everybody? Spring training is a busy time in baseball, not just for players, but also for the agents who represent them. Today, we're talking to veteran agent Tom OConnell of OConnell Sports Management, who offers a glimpse into what's cooking for him this spring. From the travel and the meetings with clients and club officials, to negotiating a contract extension for one of his young players. As you'll hear, the life of a baseball agent this time of year is a lot more than fun in the sun. So hang with us as we head to spring training with agent Tom OConnell on Sports 360. Joining me today on Sports 360 is veteran baseball agent Tom OConnell, and Tom is taking some time out this morning from a lot of traveling on the spring training trail to join us on Sports 360. Tom, how you doing this morning?
Jeff, always a pleasure, my friend.
Well, I'm glad to have you back. We had you on the show a couple of months ago, and we had a good time then, just talking about various different things. And, Tom, I just wanted to catch up with you today to talk about a number of things. I know you've been busy. This is a busy time of the year for you and other agents who are out there traveling, seeing your clients in Arizona and in Florida. But also, too, this is still the busiest time of the year in terms of contracts for your players, transactions, and all the rest of that. So just wanted to catch up with you a little bit and, have you talk through for our audience some of the things that you go through and other agents go through at this busy time of the year. So first of all, man, how are you holding up? How's the travels?
Everything's good, and I just want the audience to know I'm wearing my official Jeff Fannell Sports 360 T-shirt for this interview. It gives me great strength and also a tremendous amount of knowledge as I conduct this interview. So, no, it's been great, man. Again, obviously it's a busy time of year for me with spring training, and you're balancing a lot of different things. You're balancing not only seeing your clients at the major league level and the minor league level, but you also have recruited players for the draft. So you have to visit those guys, the college players and the high school players. So you have to truly be organized in your schedule because there's a lot of things that and a lot of players that you need to see.
Well, let me ask you that in particular, because I know, that you are doing the traveling, right? I mean, O'Connell Sports Management, I mean, you are the guy who's on the front line. You are the guy who's out there doing all this. So how do you go about it, right? Because you have to hit Florida, and that's a lot of travel, right, to hit all the spring training camps in Florida. And then also you have to hit Arizona. So how do you go about planning that?
So usually what I do is I always start in Florida because I live in Tampa, Florida. So which gives me a good base during spring trainings. What I'll tend to do is kind of see where my guys are. This year I've got 6 guys in camp with the Mets. I have a guy in camp with the Astros, one with the Nationals. So primarily a lot of my guys are in that Jupiter, Port St. Lucie area. So what I'll do is I'll go down there, spend a day or two in that area, grab dinner with I try to get all my guys together and have dinner in one location. Usually I go to my man Constantine at Giuseppe's in Jupiter, one of my favorite places to eat during spring training. They do a great job, and so that's where I'll start, and then kind of make my way back. I've got Tyler Flowers is down in Northport, so I'll get down there to see him. I've got Zach Eflin over in Clearwater, and I just methodically go about seeing guys, but try to be as productive as I can with seeing some guys. Having 5 or 6 guys in one area makes it a little easier to knock all those guys out at like one big dinner. And then at the same time, I'm also going in, watching the workouts, going to games as well, trying to see as many executives and front office people I can see, marketing people, just to, overall get a feel for, not only where my guys are as far as how they're doing in spring training, but, get a sense of what, the year is going to be entail for them.
Right. And you do that in Florida, and I guess it's the same drill in Arizona. At some
Yeah.
point, then you hop a plane, go to Arizona, and you do the same thing out there.
Yeah, I just got back from Arizona. I was out there for 8 days, and Arizona's a little easier than Florida because everybody's kind of in one location. All the teams are in Phoenix, so it makes your life a lot easier. You can be way more productive, and really get everybody kind of in under one roof. So what I usually do there is I'll get everybody together one night. We have a big dinner. This year we did it at Mastro's, which is another obviously great restaurant out there in Scottsdale, and they've always been very, very good to us. And then again, same thing, just kind of go around, see your guys, and I usually try to catch at least one game a day or go to a workout every day, and just kind of make sure that I'm seeing all my guys that are in that Phoenix area.
Yeah. Now, in addition to seeing your guys, and like you said, you might take in a game a day or whatever. Certainly, it's not just fun in the sun, right? I mean, there's a lot of business that I'm sure you try to conduct with club officials, but also dealing with your players who, as you described earlier, right, they're at different levels. You got some major league guys, you got some guys who are trying to make it to the majors and the high minors. You have guys in the low minors, you got recent draftees and all the rest of it. So just talk a little bit about the business that's going on, because it's not all just sitting in the sunshine watching games, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, you have, first off, you have, your 0 to 3 players that you have to negotiate their contracts for, which are guys that are not qualified yet for salary arbitration. But, every year you have to negotiate with the club on their behalf. Most of these teams use formulas, so there's really not a ton of negotiating that goes on, but yet you still want to walk your player through what their offer is, how far over the minimum salary is. This year the minimum salary changed and went up. So a lot of times the clubs will give a small raise or a big raise depending on the player, if he's an all-star or an MVP type of player, over the minimum salary. So you have to kind of go through that and explain to the player why and how they fit in amongst their group of players. And some guys are 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. So you have to kind of look at that. And then really there's really not a lot of negotiating that goes on the minor league side. Most of those guys are under control, but you still, you want to see them and make sure that you kind of sit down with them and let them know, where you think they're going to potentially end up, if they're going to start in high A, double A, triple A. And again, it's a very nervous time for players too, because I mean, you're trying to make the club, you're trying to figure out where you're going to end up, and then you have your free agents that maybe are not signed yet. You're still trying to get them jobs. So, this year I ended up having to put on a workout. It's the first time I had to do it, but put on a workout for my own signed free agents and, tried to get those guys situated, whether it be with a major league affiliate, an independent team, or even, overseas. So, again, there's a lot involved in that, and you just, want to, every day you're pretty much trying to do something along the lines of A, seeing your guys, B, educating your guys as far as contract stuff, and then, and then C, just trying to, get guys jobs that don't have jobs right now.
Right. And so, in short, there's a lot of work that is going on as you make your rounds in spring training. And on that score, Tom, I want to jump to something that has been recently in the news with you and one of your clients, and and that is with Aaron Bummer, a relief pitcher for the Chicago White Sox, and you were able to negotiate an extension for Aaron over I guess maybe 2 weeks ago now, 5 years, 16 million. And Tom, first of all, let me just say this: I've been around a long time, as you know. You and I work together on a lot of things, and you know, um, I want to get your thoughts on extensions in particular, but at the same time, I first want to give you a shout out and a congratulations on what was a really good deal for Aaron. At his level of seniority, the type of pitcher he is, he's a setup man, non-closing relief pitcher. And this is one of the better deals to come along, one of the better extensions to come along for a pitcher of this type. And so, first of all, congratulations on that. It was really good work. But just talk us through a little bit about that, how it came about and, the player education part, the dealing with the club part, because obviously that's was some really good work that took place this spring.
Yeah, sure. Look, yeah, basically, Jeremy Haber, their assistant GM, called me right after FanFest and offered, to engage on a multi-year extension for Aaron. So we were, again, it was obviously that's always an exciting time for a player when he's able to get that type of offer. So we basically have what we have to do because Aaron is not eligible for salary arbitration. The Players Association kind of makes us go through this procedure where we sit down and we put together a book of exhibits to allow us to truly educate the player on value. And how we do it is we just kind of go year to year as if the player was in salary arbitration and kind of give him an idea or a sense of where he would be based on performance that he would have in 2020. So we went through that process, and then we had kind of a framework of what we felt would be, an area where, a good settlement would be on a multi-year deal. We went back and forth for probably about 20 days, and then ultimately we were able to secure a contract that Aaron's very happy with, and obviously we're happy with. And so it's always a very exciting time when you're able to secure a contract of that magnitude where a player is basically now set for life, and it's just a very rewarding feeling on the agent aspect of it, that's for sure.
And you mentioned going through the education process with your client, with the player, and how the Players Association makes this a requirement. And again, it's to protect all players, because it's important to try to get as close to market value as you can in the context of a multi-year deal. But you're right, there is this upside of, hey man, I can get some security if you're the player, but it has to be weighed against making sure that you understand what your year to year value is, because if you go year to year, there may be an opportunity to do better, but at the same time you have there could be some down performance, there could be injuries and all the rest of it. How do you weigh those competing interests, security versus perhaps doing better if you went year to year, but having to take on the risk of injury or down performance?
Well, look, I've had guys do both. I was fortunate enough to represent Mike Dunn as a left-handed setup man. He had to go year to year, and it's tough. It's tough because that role is so volatile. You can, the thing about being a setup man or even a closer, you can, if you have 5 or 6 bad ones in a row, you can lose your job and lose your role. So I think that clearly you're always betting on you got to be successful, and I think we all think our guy is going to do tremendous every year, and most of the time they do. But again, I just think the biggest thing is if the values are correct and in the ballpark or where you would be on a year to year basis, then it makes it a little bit easier to be able to pull the trigger on a potential extension. And I think that's kind of what we did here. We looked at if he stayed in the same role in Chicago. I mean, and clearly right now, they've got a very good bullpen with Colomé and Cishek and Herrera and Aaron and others. So we just kind of looked and said, again, what's the path to saves? Because saves are really what pay a relief pitcher in salary arbitration. And we then looked at the values of what they were offering him on this 5-year deal, and we felt that if he stays in the setup role, this is going to be a very, very big contract for him. And we were we felt comfortable about that, and so we decided to pull the trigger. But again, it's just really looking at where he would be year to year. And again, just because I've had him and Luke Gregerson and guys like that go through this as relief pitchers, I kind of understand how it works for non-closing relievers, and so that's where we looked at this deal. That was really kind of how we valued it.
Yeah, and one of the things, Tom, that I think about as well with pitchers that are a bit different than position players is that every pitcher out there, starting pitcher, relief pitcher, is one pitch away from tearing a UCL or something like that and being out for an extended period of time. And it's not that you play the game scared, or as an agent you operate out of fear, but that's a reality as well. And so when I would take it when any pitcher is offered an extension, as you said, if the dollars are somewhat near, what would be his value if he went year to year, you have to really think about it carefully, especially because of what I just mentioned, right? A pitcher is one pitch away from perhaps tearing a UCL.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I did a similar extension with John Neese when he was a 2+ player with the New York Mets, and it was a 5-year deal, and it was again a deal that really worked out well for John. He pitched very well at certain years of that contract, and but again, I think it was when John did the deal, I'll never forget. After he just felt very secure now that he could just worry about going out and performing, and knowing that financially he's taking care of his family. So and then I was able to do one for Wade Miley in the concept of salary arbitration when he was at the Boston Red Sox. He had just gotten traded over there, and we were able to work out a 3-year deal for him with the Red Sox in his first year of arbitration. So, and again, same thing. I think once a player secures those types of dollars, it's just a relief knowing that, okay, now all I have to do is worry about going out performing, making sure that I'm prepared year in, year out to answer the bell at the beginning of the season and in spring training. So, but again, it's just they know that they're taken care of. God forbid there is an injury. God forbid there's some down performance. Where they're set because of the fact that they did perform at a high level in order to secure that type of contract. And that's the other thing too. Like, Aaron, performed at a very high level last year, and that's why the White Sox felt he was a big part of their future. And the same thing back when I did it for John Neese with the Mets felt that John was a key piece of their rotation. When Wade got traded over to Boston, same thing. The Red Sox and Ben Cherington felt that Wade was going to be an integral piece moving forward for the Red Sox. So I think when players are offered these types of extensions, it's because ownership and management view him as a key piece to hopefully building a championship in that city. And I think that that's what the White Sox are trying to do now. They've locked up some other of their young players, and I think that sometimes you have to be on the right club that's looking to compete for a championship in order to get these type of extensions. And I think, in every guy that I've ever done them for, that was basically part of the equation, that they were on teams that were trying to win a World Series, and they were able to benefit because of that.
You're right. You're right. There's no question. I mean, and you make a good point in terms of where the teams are in looking to compete for a championship. I think that's one part of it. But the other part, right, that we can't overlook is the player needs to be performing at a high level, right? That the
Right.
team says, I want to lock him up. And so I think that, with any player out there, if they're approached with a potential extension, it's a testament to their performance to that point and where the team sees him fitting in as they try to compete for a championship. So that certainly is part of it. So, again, I mean, there's been a lot of extensions too, and this is the time of the year for it, right? Spring training. We saw
Sure.
it last year. We saw so many extensions, and Haven't seen that many so far, but we're early. And my sense will be that over the next couple of weeks, we will see more extensions as we get closer to opening day. Because again, for teams, they get cost certainty. For the player, they get some measure of security. And so, I think we'll continue to see extensions as we go forward.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, I think the player obviously wins for the fact that he's now hopefully gotten life-changing money, and for the team, you're getting a player that you really truly believe in. That's part of your, that's part of hopefully going to, bring a championship to that city. So again, I think, like not to sound repetitive, but that's just what those teams target, those type of guys, those franchise type of players that they feel will be, hopefully in that city for many years.
Yeah. But one thing, Tom, though, and we can't have this discussion without also talking about this, and that is, you know, when you have these extensions, one of the things that teams always look to do is to include one or more free agent years as part of the deal. And, obviously free agency is, a very important right for players. We've seen like this past year some huge contracts for players who were free agents, right? Garrett Cole, Strasburg, Rendon, and others, who really did well as free agents. We know there's been some issues with free agency over the past couple of years, where the market was cold. This year was a little bit better, but there is a price to the ticket when it comes to extensions, and that is the player is usually asked to give up one or more free agent years, and those are valuable considerations. So we can't leave that out of the discussion because that certainly is part of it as well.
No, absolutely, and I think that that was a very big part of this negotiation. We wanted to make sure that his free agent years were, market value, and we felt we accomplished that with him making 7.25 and 7.5, which is kind of right in the middle of what settlement have been getting over the last couple of markets. So that was something that as we went into it, we felt that that was very important to us, and we felt we accomplished that. So, but you're right. I mean, I think that the option years are key. And as long as you can secure solid value in those option years, it's a little bit more palatable, but at the same time, again, understanding that, you may go into your walk year and, have a tremendous year. The club, will exercise those options, and that's where they get their value.
Sure, sure. Well, let's switch gears for a minute because part of the off season also for baseball agents includes salary arbitration. And, you had Zach Eflin, who you mentioned earlier, starting pitcher with the Philadelphia Phillies, who was eligible for arbitration for the first time this past offseason, and you were able to get a deal done there. How good was that in order to get it for you to get a deal done for Zach?
Yeah, it was great. Anytime you go through it for the first time, it's kind of a little overwhelming for the player. You basically start preparing as soon as the season is over. And, as you well know, because you and I worked together on salary arbitration. By the way, congratulations on a tremendous salary arbitration season for yourself. A couple wins I know you were part of, and one yourself. So very nicely done. And but no,
Okay.
I think that the biggest thing for us was just you know how much preparation goes into every case, and you start in the summertime really starting to kind of basically identifying who his class is going to be, and then you start once the season's over. I met with Zach back in November in Orlando, and we just started talking about potential comps. We knew this year was going to be interesting because he was going to have a couple guys in his class that were going to be probably very important to his overall case, which was what actually happened in this particular case. So It just really is more about, and the funny thing is too, like when you're sitting down, we know that there's really not a lot of action until, the day of exchange, which is in January. And it's kind of really changed over the years, because I remember back, when we first started doing it together in the Gregerson and Dunn days, there would be some conversations leading up to the day of exchange. And if for your listeners, the days of exchange is kind of when you have to file a number on behalf of your player, the club has to file a number on behalf of the team. So and you create a midpoint, and ultimately, if it goes to hearing, you have to argue if your player is better than that midpoint. So, back in the day, there used to be a lot of preliminary conversations, and it seems like there really isn't any anymore. It's really the conversations start, heating up on the day of exchange, and there's quite a few settlements that will be had most on that day, and then obviously players that can't get it done will exchange numbers and end up in a hearing. And I think now most of the teams are filing trials. So unless you come to a resolution, you're going to end up in a hearing unless you agree on a multi-year deal. So there's a lot involved in it, and I think that for the first time a player goes through it, he's amazed by all the conversations that can happen within the course of 4 hours. And Zach did a wonderful job this year as far as we felt that we had our value properly. We put the proper evaluation on Zach, and he was able to secure a contract that he was very happy with.
Yeah, and Tom, one of the things that I was impressed with Zach, and I think this is a testament to what you did with him in terms of informing him of the process, his value, and everything else. And other agents do the same thing. And I think that's one of the things that gets overlooked, or maybe is not as well known about the job of an agent, and that is keeping their client informed and educated, particularly on his market value, no matter what it might be, as a 0-3 player, as a salary arbitration player, or in free agency. And one of the things that really impressed me was that Zach was well informed. He knew about the process, he knew about his value, and because of that, he was willing to make to make an informed decision on whether or not to accept an offer. And that's so important for the player and for the agent, because the more informed your player is, then I think it makes it that much easier for the agent to do his job in negotiating with the club.
Well, I think too, it's we've been through this before, right? With Mike Dunn and Gregerson over the years, and with other players. And you kind of, if you've done it before, you kind of get a sense of how it could end up playing out on the day of exchange. And that was the biggest thing that I was able to do with Zach, was say, look, this is where I feel we need to be dug in at. And it was I dealt with Scott Profrock of the Phillies. He was great. Scott's a pro, and he had obviously his marching orders, and I had my marching orders from our side. And again, you try to work to the best resolution possible. Sometimes you're not going to agree, and they're going to have their views on why the player's value is this, and we have our views on why we feel the player's value is what we see, how we see it. So but ultimately, I think that we came to a resolution based on a lot of conversations, but I think Zach did a really good job as far as he was willing to go to hearing if we couldn't get to where we needed to be. And I think that's the biggest thing for players, is the fact that you need to be willing to go. If you're willing to go to hearing, you're going to get the club's best bullet. And I think that's the best part about arbitration is, like going back to negotiating a multi-year extension as a pre-arb player, you're going to get to a part in the negotiation where that's going to be the end. And there is no platform to go into a hearing if you don't agree with the club's offer, that you can, basically have someone else sell it for you. In a pre-arb extension, this is our best bullet, take it or leave it. Whereas in salary arbitration, if you can't come to a resolution on the contract, then you're able to go into a hearing in either Florida or Arizona in front of a 3-person panel, and they will decide it for you. So I think that's the one thing that, when you talk to players and you educate players, that's the value of salary arbitration. The fact that if we can't agree on the number, then we'll let somebody else figure it out for us and put on our best case and show that why we feel the value is what it is. So that for me is what I think, is the real value of arbitration for players, is the fact that it gives you that platform to negotiate a really strong deal. And if you can't get something that you're happy with, then you have, the avenue to be able to get the result, hopefully, that you want. So.
Right. I mean, you have the opportunity to go and to try to, win your case and fight for the number that you believe is the right one. So,
Yep.
um, so listen, man. So what's on tap? I mean, this is, as we're sitting here talking today, it's early March. So what does the rest of the spring look like for you?
Yeah, so basically, now what I'll do is I'll start making my rounds again in Florida, and you're constantly every day trying to figure out where you're going to go. You pick your spots on certain weeks. I mean, I've got 2 little ones and my wife, so my kids are 10 and 7, so I'm going to try to mix in a couple of lacrosse games and spend a little time with them. But ultimately take them hopefully to a couple of games, and it's always fun to take my kids and my wife to some spring training games throughout the course of March. And so we'll do that. And then, it's just, again, starting to see the high school guys, making sure that you're, touching base with your college guys. And it's just, it really never stops, and then I'll head back out to Arizona in about 10 days to see the guys that weren't there yet when I was first out there, because the minor league guys report a little later than guys going to major league camp. And then ultimately it comes down to the end, because I've got 4 guys this particular spring that are out of options that have to make clubs, and that's obviously when the rubber meets the road at the end of spring training. You're hoping that all your guys have good springs and they'll be on their first opening day rosters for some of them. So that's always an exciting time, and there's no better feeling than when you're going north with the team to make an opening day roster. So obviously there's pressure for players with that. So you have to kind of, help them navigate those waters as well.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot ahead, and once spring training is over and the season begins, I'm sure you try to get home for a little bit and get some extended family time and some R&R and all the rest of it. But
I'm definitely going to try to play some golf as soon as spring training is over. I take that back, though. Anybody who knows me knows I do like to play golf with my clients during spring training. So I do it's not all work. Anybody who knows me knows that I am not afraid to dip out on the golf course in the afternoon with my guys and play 18 holes. So we enjoy doing that. I'm very fortunate that a lot of those guys got me back into golf years ago, because I hadn't played for years. But Mr. Miley, Mr. Gregerson, Mr. Neese, they loved playing golf. So they get to play some really nice golf courses. So we're able to, ignite that fire again. So that is something that I really enjoy doing is teeing up with the boys during spring training. That's always a lot of fun.
yeah, I mean, and look, given all the the travel and the work that's involved, and that certainly is needed, to take some time and get in a little exercise, a little golf. So that's good. But listen, man, listen, Tom. Again, man, I appreciate you taking some time out from a really busy time of the year, and just coming in and talking with us a little bit about some of the things that go on that spring training trail. So all the best to you, man. I'm sure we're going to catch up again and talk about some things, but I appreciate you coming on today and just sharing a little bit about the spring training experience from the agent perspective.
Well, I truly appreciate you having me on, buddy. And I actually love doing this show for the swag that I get after. You know what I mean? 'Cause I know that, as you always continue to up your game, I look forward to when I get the, Jeff Fannell Sports 360, the latest, the swag bag. So I'm looking forward to that. And I know that now that I've kind of put you on notice here, I'm expecting to be, very get a very great gift from my man Jeff Fannell, because I know he's a pro, and he is very generous guy. So looking forward to that, big guy.
All right, you got it, man. You got it.
All right.
Look for that
Well,
in the
listen,
mail.
yeah, man. Get best of luck with everything. Say hello to your lovely wife, and buddy, you have a great rest of your week, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, and I'll talk to you soon.
See you, buddy. Bye.
Bye.